have been on one of our training or coaching sessions before, my name is Justin Taylor. I'm the Business Development and Training Executive for Rock Title. We are in Arizona, Nevada. We have a sister company in California. We are expanding nationally, which is super exciting. But please, in your next escrow, consider writing Rock Title for your title and escrow needs. We have an amazing escrow team across both states, and a sales team that is eager to meet with you and help you business plan, marketing, anything you can think of. Just leverage their intellectual property and what they know and seeing and working with other agents. And then we can continue to provide amazing trainings like today. We're always so grateful to have Debbie De Grote on with us from Forward Coaching. I mean, just a phenomenal coach and wealth of knowledge and tactics, and over 3,000 transactions. Is that correct?
Yep. In my 16 years of selling, I have to admit, I probably worked a little bit too much. So here at Forward Coaching, we try to help people work a little less.
There you go. Make a lot of money, work a little bit less.
A little bit less. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all good stuff. So today we are going to be going into selling luxury and talking about that market. So I will hand it over to you, Debbie. And
Awesome.
Again, thank you so much.
And welcome everyone. And absolutely, we'll get the chat box going too. I want to say, just feel free to type a question in the chat, and I'll save a little time as well at the end so we could just open it up. You can unmute yourself, ask me any questions you might like to ask me. You know, one of the reasons this is such a good topic, especially in this type of changing, shifting market, is sometimes when you want to break into luxury and it's a really easy market, everybody's trying to grab those luxury deals and it's hard to break in. We have many clients of Forward who are luxury agents who broke into the luxury market in a more challenging market. And the way that they did that was to go after expireds and cancels. So that was one of their tips and tricks. And we'll talk about lots of different ways to break in. And I also want you to think about, it doesn't even have to be luxury, right? So in other words, luxury is often considered to be the top 10% of the price point sold in your market. So we different numbers across the country, but the top 10%. But just imagine, even if you just increased your average sales price by 20% or 100,000, I mean, it's all extra revenue for basically the same amount of work. So even if it's not your goal to sell what we might call big luxury, ultra luxury, everything we talk about today will help you bump your price point. Right. And now Justin already introduced me a bit, so I won't take a lot of time, but my name is Debbie De Grote and I am the co-founder and CEO of Forward Coaching. I sold real estate for 16 years here in LA and Orange County, just like all of you, very competitive market. And then the last 22 years, I've had the pleasure of coaching amazing agents all across North America. So my mouse is doing crazy things here. So before we go too far, since you guys are all kind of near our neighborhoods, we have an amazing event coming up called Built How Live. It's in Palm Springs in March. It is a 2.5-day event. We bring people in from all across the country. And our theme this year is do something about it. So in other words, let's do something about making this the most successful year of your career. Now, Justin, we're going to be coming to Arizona in the fall, so we'll keep in touch there. But we actually wanted to arrange a special discount for you guys because Rock Title is always so gracious in inviting me and introducing me to all of you that if you wanted to come to our event, you can go to the link there. You can find out all the good details, and then you will have a discount because of Rock Title. I wanted to just thank them for getting us connected. All right, so let's dive in. So why does luxury offer, or even just higher end, a massive opportunity? Well, one thing that's just a fact, luxury or wealthy clients often buy and sell more frequently than the average home buyer. I can give you an example. I just heard someone tell me the other day about a friend of theirs that sold their $3 million house in Huntington Beach, had one built in Newport Beach for 4.5 million, moved in, decided they didn't like the neighbors, sold that house and moved back to Huntington Beach and bought one for 4 million. Now I'd like to be that real estate agent, right? So they have, maybe potentially more resources. They may buy second homes. They may buy investments from you, maybe help fund their children purchasing a home. So there's a lot of opportunity with luxury or wealthy clients, and they often have great connections. One of our coaching clients recently was holding open a luxury property, and it wasn't even his listing. He had asked a luxury agent, hey, could I help you out with some open houses? Held this open house, buyer walked in, bought it. He went and listed that buyer's house. And then over the course of the next month, the people that client introduced him to, total volume after 90 days, A to Z, 60 million in volume, all from that first connection at that open house. Now, granted, I'm sure he did an incredible job. And yet again, luxury people have potentially a higher level of connections. And not only do they expect and appreciate a higher level of service, they are typically more likely to be willing to pay for it. One of our clients, some of you might have even heard him on one of my webinars if you've been to events with us, Ernie Carswell. Ernie is actually a great agent to Google. Look at his website, follow him on social media. I really think he is the epitome of a quality luxury agent. His last name is Carswell, Ernie Carswell, and he is in Beverly Hills, California. Ernie is Katy Perry and Fergie's real estate agent, along with many other rich and famous. Ernie had the Brady Bunch house listed and sold it. Back when it sold, he sold last year, I think it was last year, the USC mansion. Just took a listing for $46 million, and yet so understated and gracious. And Ernie always talks about, if you ever hear him on any webinars or events, he talks about how he is very clear that he is the hired help, that he is not their friend, that he shouldn't overstep or overstate the relationship, let them take the lead, and that he knows these are people who demand and expect 5-star service, so that he better deliver it. Now, why don't more agents go after luxury? They're intimidated, right? There is a top luxury agent who works a market where the price point is 12, I'd say, well, maybe on the low side, 7 million to 40 million. Does he live in that neighborhood? No, he can't afford it. I mean, he makes great money. He probably makes, a couple of million a year at least in commissions. However, he couldn't afford to buy a $20 million home. So why isn't he intimidated by working in that market? Because he doesn't live there. He lives a half an hour away. Because he's become the expert. See, he's mastered the knowledge of the product, of the construction, who are the ideal buyers. He's built relationships with those agents in that community. And he also said to me, he said, Debbie, I always dress well for my appointments, but I also know I don't need to be designer head to toe. I don't need to show up in a Ferrari for the listing appointment. They are the wealthy clients. I am there to serve them. So sometimes the agents will say, but I don't live in that market, or I'm not personally as wealthy as my potential clients are. Hey, that's perfectly fine. just be the expert in that market, right? They don't even expect that you would be their neighbor, right? So secret number 2, what are the best methods to determine your slice of the luxury market? Well, I would start off with, what market would excite you? You know, I've often thought, if I ever went back into full-time selling real estate, I don't know if I would go back to selling in my same neighborhoods, because I think, wow, wouldn't it be so cool? My daughter got married in Napa Valley, and I thought, wow, wouldn't it be so cool if you were selling like that kind of property, right? Houses with a view of the vineyards. Or maybe you're like, gee, I want to go sell, I want to sell farms, or I want to sell ranches. We actually, interestingly enough, coach people that sell ranches, hunting land. One of our clients, Slade Priest, is the famous hunting land man who has a TV show. So I think, wow, what excites you? What interests you? Because whatever you're passionate about, you're more likely to stick with and to pursue. Now, then if you think, all right, where do I meet these people? Well, it could be social groups. And when I say social groups, it could actually be fun things that are interesting to you, and they just happen to put you in front of your ideal client. So there was a lady that we coached for many years until she retired, and she lived in La Jolla, California, and she wanted to farm and dominate the houses that were along the ocean, that were the waterfront view. And she said, you know, I can't spend a fortune in marketing. How do I connect with these people in a way that doesn't feel gimmicky or salesy? Well, she discovered there was a nursery nearby that always had a speaker every Wednesday. You could pay $50, go to the lunch, hear the speaker, and mix and mingle at this beautiful nursery. And she was an avid gardener. And she's like, well, this is a great way to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I get to enjoy my hobby, and I get to meet the people who are my ideal client, because 90% of the people at that event lived right there in that neighborhood next to the nursery. Now, she didn't sell a ton of units, but the price point was so high that typically she'd do $60 to $80 million in volume a year. And most of it came right out of those ladies, mostly were women, that she met at that luncheon each and every Wednesday, right? So it doesn't have to be hard. So think about, you know, social groups. If you want to join a country club, fine. Sometimes people just do a social membership, which is really affordable, because like, I don't have time to play golf. I'm too busy working. But I could go to the restaurant, I could go to the social events, and that's usually a very small fee. So clubs, charities, hobbies that you have. I always like to say, though, what is in your heart or interesting or fun for you? Because again, then you're more likely to stick with it, right? So then who do you know right now that has your ideal client? Maybe your CPA. Maybe you guys could do some events together, or you could ask, you know, would you be willing to send referrals my way? I've been a client for years, and I don't think you've ever sent me any business. So it could be professionals, you know, it could even be going through your database and identifying the higher price point properties that you've sold in the past, and saying, wow, you know, that is really my ideal new client of the future, that price point. I probably need to spend more time connecting with those people, because they may have a database I can tap into, right? So then the skills. Well, this one is actually relatively easy. Like, you've got to shine as that wise advisor, as that clear choice. But let me tell you Ernie's story, how he did this. When he moved to Beverly Hills, he had moved from New York. He did not know a single person. He had not a single contact, and he didn't have a lot of money to market himself. This is 25 years ago. So what did Ernie do? He said, first thing, I must master the product knowledge. So the easiest way in Beverly Hills to do that is to go on the broker tours every week. So he would go out on the broker tour. He would see every single property that was on tour, and he carried his little leather journal. And when he would go into the property, he'd engage that listing agent, and he would take notes, and he would ask them, if I were to show the property, can you help me understand why is this particular location so special? Tell me about the architect on this property. He would just basically, it's actually really smart when you think about it. He would meet these veteran agents of these high dollar listings. He would ask enough questions to suck all the information out of their head about that property and about that market. And of course, they love to talk. They love to share what they knew. That's how we all are, I guess. And then he would go back at night and he would study those notes in his little leather journal. And he began to absorb and learn the market. And he said, I made a rule that I always had to have at least 10 great properties to talk about, because then I knew that if I'm out socially, hanging out with people, if I've seen a great house, I can just naturally find a way to drop that into the conversation. I remember him saying that he had looked at one of Barbara Streisand's properties, and it actually had a actual gold toilet. Not the color gold, actual gold. Well, so now he's at some party and he's like, oh my gosh, you won't believe it. I was in Barbara Streisand's house today, 14 karat gold toilet. People are like, what? You're kidding. But see, he became known as the guy that did luxury before he became successful in luxury, because he got to know those luxury agents. He studied the trends, local and national. He figured out those nuances of location and important amenities that would impact value. He became a student of that market. And then still to this day, he always has 10 great properties to talk about. So if we think about, all right, first we're going to identify what's our slice of the market we want. Where do we want to focus? Then we're going to think about, okay, our ideal client that's in that group. What are 2 or 3 ways I could get connected? And now I'm going to become an absolute expert in that particular market. I'm not too far from here is Naples, Long Beach. Some of you know that area. And of course, they have the canals. And there's vast difference in the value, because part of Naples, the Gold Coast, is deep water. So you could fit a really big boat. Part of it, you could fit a decent sized boat. Some of it, you cannot get a sailboat or a big boat out under the bridge at high tide. So it's all these nuances that change the value of the property. So that's easy enough, right? Just go out, go tour the properties, study the market, and talk to those top agents. But now we want to get ready for the appointment. Upgrade everything. Sometimes people will tell me, I want to sell luxury. And then I go to their website and I see properties that are very low priced. So if a seller went there to look you up and they see that you're only working the low end of that price point, but you're telling them that you do luxury, they're not going to buy it. But what do you do if you don't have a luxury listing? Borrow from someone. Contact someone like an Ernie and say, hey, I see these amazing couple of listings you have. Would you mind? I certainly won't, say that I'm the listing agent, but can I market that on my social media? Can I market that on my website? Hey, by the way, do you ever need help at an open house? See, most of the luxury agents have a little following, if they don't have their own team, of a few favorite agents to hold their listings open. So we want to take a look at your website. If somebody goes there and says, okay, does Mark sell higher end or luxury? Oh yeah, I see that listing. I see his resources. Yes, his bio is, really great, looking sharp. Your listing presentation materials. You don't necessarily have to have a completely separate package, but I would certainly upgrade your paper. Make sure that you've got some things inserted there that might be more of the menu of services for a luxury agent or a luxury seller. Some of the marketing that might be a little bit above and beyond what you would do on a standard listing. So you could really have your standard package, just upgrade the look, and then just insert those few luxury pages. So we want to upgrade the presentation. We want to upgrade your marketing approach. Now, that doesn't mean, though, that you have to break the bank and spend a fortune. See, most luxury agents will set a budget and their standard things that they do for a luxury property. And then if the seller is demanding a very expensive activity be done, they will negotiate with that seller often that the seller will pay the cost up front and the agent will repay them at the close or repay a portion, or maybe not at all. So for example, one of the luxury agents we coach said, if they will list at the price I recommend, I'm willing to do a bit more on that spend in terms of the marketing. But if they're going to choose the price, then I'm going to look to them to front a good majority of that marketing cost. And he said, and I'm not going to say I'll pay back all of it. I'll pay back typically around 15% of what that spend is. So the marketing approach depends on the price point. So if you're just bumping your price up a bit, you may not have to do anything different than you're already doing. But if you're going into that next, that true top 10% of the price point in your market, yeah, you may have to add a few additional things. So think about what also would be your menu of services. And I'll give you an example. I was just talking to a client in Texas, and they have a lot of clients that own those properties and don't live in them, their second home. So one of their menu of services is they send a handyman by every week to inspect the listings. And if there's a broken window, a leaky pipe, that handyman takes care of that. That's part of their menu of services. Another client in Austin, Texas, he helps them find their vendors, whether it's, someone to come and pack and help them move, obviously stager, because these are people that are used to having things done for them. So you want to define what are the services I'm willing to provide that, again, are reasonable, don't consume all of your time and energy. And we want to make sure on these luxury properties that you feel confident you can get this property sold, that it's a wise use of your time and budget. Now, once in a while, you may choose to take one that you don't think you'll ever sell. Ernie says he doesn't think he'll ever sell this one for $46 million. It's one of those weird properties, kind of special, kind of unique, but really expensive, limited buyer pool in the world. Not very many people in the world that would choose it. But he said, it's got such a history. The property has such a history in Hollywood that it's great PR. So he feels like the PR and the connections that will come from having that property, well worth the time, energy, and money spent to market it. So if you're choosing to take one, just make sure it's a good business decision. So then, what do you do when you don't have a track record? So you think about, well, it's like the chicken and the egg. I can't get a luxury listing if I don't have a luxury track record. But how do I get a luxury track record without a luxury listing? Well, a couple of things you can do. One of them is partner with a top luxury agent, maybe on your first 3, 4, or 5. I know that's what Ernie did, because Ernie said, I was afraid that if I tried to go in on my own, that I'd lose it. And I didn't want to lose it. He goes, trust me, I didn't want to give up half, but I thought giving up half was better than not getting it at all. And he said, also, I thought if I picked one of the best luxury agents in the market, then I would get the bird's eye view at that appointment. And as we work through that process, what do they do? What do they say? How do they market properties? He said, I kind of looked at it like paying for my master's degree in luxury. So that's what he chose to do, that you may choose to do. Others may say, well, I don't know if I need to do that because my company has such strong presence in the luxury market. Let's say, for example, you work for Sotheby's and they're known as a luxury company and they've got all of these great luxury resources. You may be able to lean on the power of your brand. So if you don't personally have a track record, does the local company that you work for have a strong presence in that market? Does the brand have a presence in the luxury market? If so, you may be able to leverage that instead of having your own track record. And sometimes you may just have to say, you're right. I have not sold many homes in this price point. And yet that's exactly why you should hire me, because I am an experienced agent and I am determined to conquer and master this market. So what that means is I'm hungry and I am going to work overtime. Plus, I'm moving my database from a lower price point up into your price point. So I guess you could say I could be your buyer supplier potentially. So just be ready, because what doesn't go well is when you stutter, you stand, well, yeah, no, I haven't sold many. No, be ready. Yeah, I haven't sold many in this price point. You are right. That's exactly why you're going to want to hire me. One of our clients here in Huntington Beach for many, many years, Sean Stanfield. Sean is a great luxury agent. And he said that back in the day when he first got started, that's exactly what he did. He just showed up with that energy, that enthusiasm, and just talked about the fact that he was going to work overtime. And they loved it. So you can use your company stats. You could partner with a luxury agent. And also just remember that when you get these luxury clients, they bring with you just a wealth of opportunity for you to leverage. But that's why the service is so important. So, Justin, I know we went fast, but I'm always respectful of the time. And so if we go back to secret number 1 and 2, it's choosing your slice of the luxury market. Number 2, where are you going to connect with your ideal client? And then number 3, how to really shine and show up as that wise advisor in the marketplace. And we did talk a minute ago about expired and canceled. There is a saying in luxury when it comes to expired or canceled, that you're better off to be the firstborn, the second spouse, and the second or third agent in on a luxury listing. Why? Because sometimes the first go around, they're just kind of psycho when it comes to the price, and maybe you don't want it yet. And by the second or third time, they're either still psycho and you just ignore them, or they're now ready to actually listen to someone, tell them what they need to do. And I'm even seeing a trend right now that's been kind of interesting. I don't think I've ever seen this before, where across the country in the luxury space, I'm starting to see a lot of cancellations 45 days in. And I'm thinking that what's happening, yes, we could have some unrealistic sellers that realize they can't get what they want, so they cancel. I think, though, what might be happening is the agents are not either trained or have forgotten how to counsel the sellers. And they may not be setting those proper expectations. And I'm also noticing that the real estate agents at large have gotten out of the habit of good communication with their sellers, because we didn't have to, right? I mean, you put on the market, it's gone. Back in the day of a different market, when we had to contact them every week, talk about what we were doing to sell the home, make sure they knew you were working hard. I think we've forgotten to do that. And in fact, I think that with the market creating so much anxiety for them, I'm not even sure that connecting with them once a month or once a week is enough. So you may want to do that as part of your kind of wrap up of taking a new listing. Say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, this is how I typically will connect with you. This is how often I'll connect with you. What else do you need from me? Tell me your ideal service scenario so that I can be assured that you feel well taken care of. And guys, I get it. Many of us here who've been in the business for a long time, we've had to have lots of unpleasant conversations with sellers, telling them their price is too high. It's not fun. However, I think of it this way. We're the doctor, they're the patient. We have to tell them what they need to do. So that they won't always be happy, but they certainly won't be happy if it doesn't sell. So when you take on that luxury listing, I have a thought that until they actually adjust it or give up on selling it, I have to keep asking for that adjustment. And once in a while, you're going to see a property that you think is a canceled or expired, and it's ridiculously overpriced. Still give them a call. Stop by and see them. Because, it could have been that was the agent's recommendation. It could have been that, yeah, they were a little out of their mind, but now they're more realistic. And if they're not realistic and you don't want it, just let them know, I would rather turn you down now than let you down later. However, if in the future you choose to adjust the price, I would like to work for you. I wanted to leave you with an example. I don't know why we got started again, my husband and I, are watching The Sopranos. It's been years, right, since we watched that. And the neighborhood where Tony Soprano lives, that big, beautiful house he has, I actually coached for a number of years a couple that farmed that neighborhood. That was their geographic farm, that actual area. They were fantastic at working those luxury expired and canceled. And you know what, guys? They had a really simple plan. In their pajamas, drinking coffee in the morning, they would pull up and see, did anything in that area expire or cancel the night before? If they did find one, they put their package together, which was kind of like a little listing pre-list package with a cover letter. and they went over on their way to work around 8 o'clock, knocked on the door. If they could talk to the people, great. If they didn't catch them at home, they left the packet. They would always go home and eat lunch. So they would go through that neighborhood, stop back by that expired at lunch, and knock again. If they didn't catch them, they would make sure that one evening that week, they would knock again at 5 o'clock. Then they would knock on Saturday, then they would knock on Sunday. So their campaign, pretty affordable. They just dropped off that one package, attempted to call if they could reach them on the phone or had a number, but then if not, they would make 5 attempts to connect. Usually they got in front of most of them, and their ratio was every 3 they could meet with, they would list at least 1. Not bad, right? Not bad. So you all have different talents. You all have different strengths. Some of you, you love the country club scene, and that would be great for you. Some of you are very involved and passionate about charity. Ernie is really passionate about the arts. Like, he's on the committee, I think, to restore the Hollywood Bowl. He's really involved in a museum, but see, that's his thing. So find your thing. And I always have told our clients throughout the years, don't give up your bread and butter, right? That fuels you, that feeds you. Potentially just budget 20% of your week to begin to focus on something that's going to get you into that door of luxury. My recommendation would be studying the market and looking at those properties. And if you can get yourself into a luxury open house, doesn't matter. I don't care whose listing it is. If they'll let you hold it, go hold it, because that may give you your first client to leverage. Okay, so I know we covered a lot. We're going to talk more about it at Build How. In fact, we have a great luxury panel. I have someone coming in from Park City, Utah, that sells big properties. Ernie's going to come and speak. I have Jennifer Leahy coming. She works Greenwich, Connecticut. She just sold a $100 million island. So we're going to have lots of fun there. It's not a luxury conference, though. That's just one small segment. We're going to touch all the great bases. So let's see. Tao is asking, if we go to Built How, do we have to pay for our spouse? Tao, yes, it is a registration per person. However, again, we're on the early bird rate right now because we just launched registration and we set up a discount for you guys. So it's super affordable and we'll have lots of fun. And my goal is you'll meet a lot of great agents and you can come out of there with a couple of awesome referrals, right? So Justin, thank you so much for inviting me. And if they have questions for me, they can just email me, Debbie@forwardcoaching.com. So
Awesome.
Debbie@forwardcoaching.com. Judy, are you talking about the Realty One Group Summit? If you
Yes,
are, I will be there. Yep,
Sweet.
I will be there. I'm doing a couple of breakouts there. So I will see you there.
I'll see you there
right,
too. We get to
everyone.
actually meet in person.
Awesome. Very good. Well,
Thank
I'm
you
going to
so
turn
much,
back
Debbie.
over to you. All right, guys, have a great day.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Awesome, guys. That is today's training. Please check out rockuniversity.com for all the remaining trainings for the month. And as always, I will get this edited and sent out to everyone who registered for this training with any details. Otherwise, we will see you guys in escrow, and we thank you so much. Have a great rest of your week.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Okay. You're totally okay. Summit. I've never gone to it. Joyce just joined Realty One. How highly do you recommend it?
Highly recommend. Highly recommend. It is an insane event that has, like Debbie was saying, she's gonna be part of some breakout sessions. There are tons of speakers and guests, coaching on tons of different topics and different segments of the business. So Agents rave about it. It's always a blast, but there's a lot of knowledge to take away from that. It is worth the cost to go, because again, the amount of knowledge that you're going to get from that is huge. They do a phenomenal job in doing it. And Judy just put a comment in, the summit's amazing. I've been to everyone since it started.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Have a great day, everyone. And hopefully we'll see you at Summit February.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.